Test, test. Or you're controlling it so I don't have to. Okay, got it. I'll make sure. Make sure I'm all good on my end. Yeah. Good. All right. Welcome everybody to both our live stream online community meeting and our in-person community meeting here at McLean High School. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for sharing your time. My name is Manuel Bonilla. I am actually a teacher here at McLean High School and proud to serve as the association president for the Fresno Teachers Association. You can see my picture on the left-hand side there when we were celebrating a little bit of Harry Potter along with my daughter. And the handsome gentleman next to me there and next to me right here is our executive director, Mr. Louis Jamerson. So let's give him a hand. Awesome. So we have a great night here just to talk about education, what we've been calling Reimagining Education. It is awesome to be here with not only our community members, but with our educators, and really just having a conversation about what is it that we need to do in order to improve education right here in Fresno. And please feel free for those joining us online to join in on the conversation as well. We do have folks that are going to be monitoring the conversation, and you'll be able to speak your voice on the online forum as well. So thank you for joining us online. So let's go ahead and get started here. First, I want to tell you a little bit about who we are. So we are the Fresno Teachers Association. We represent about 4,300 members in Fresno Unified. We represent the teachers, the school nurses, and trades professionals in Fresno Unified. And for us, it's a labor union, right? And so I know that when people think of labor unions, they think of what's called the industrial model of labor organizations. They think, oh, it's just workplace conditions and maybe salary and benefits as well. We think of our organization as something different, something beyond that, right? And you could see this, we call it comprehensive unionism, where yes, workplace conditions are important, and they're particularly important for you and your students because our working condition are your students' learning conditions, right? But also on there is two other items. We have professional. That means that we want to be the standard bearers of our craft. We are professional educators, we are professional nurses, professional trades professionals. We are the people doing the work. We are the experts in those areas, and we want to be treated as such. In order to do that, we help each other out through professional development, through learning with each other, and really pushing the standard of what it means in those areas. And also another one is social justice. And I know that that term has been used a lot, and maybe there are different definitions for that for different folks. What we mean by it is that our students have a certain set of circumstances. It's different than Sanger, different than Selma, different than Central Unified. And we want to be able to meet their needs so that way when they come to our classrooms, they are prepared to learn. So that's what we mean by that. And so when we operate as an organization, it is not just about working conditions, it's about all three of those working together in order to have the best benefit for your student and for our educators. So that's a little bit about who we are. And here's our guiding statement, if you will. We call it a just cause statement. As educators, we like to imagine what the world could be. In this case, our board worked together, and again, I should probably pause and say thank you for our board members that are elected by other educators, nurses, and trades professionals. So thank you for our board members here tonight that are joining us. We worked together to develop this just cause statement. I'll read it out loud to you, right? So imagine a world where learning empowers people to think, to create, and to act for the betterment of all communities. Ultimately, that's what we would like to do, not just as an organization, but as a school district. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we could put that into action today. We need to talk about whether or not our schools are thriving or if they are surviving, right? We wrote a call to action piece, which we will be talking about here tonight, but here's a glimpse to that. So we know that Fresno Unified educators are doing tremendous work. They're doing transformative work in their classroom. Okay, we see that on a daily basis. And yet we know as an organization that a lot of them are merely surviving. That it really goes to how much they're really willing to go because they're not given the support often that they need in order to thrive as an educator and for their students to thrive, right? So that's what we call they're surviving in spite of the district's systemic failures. We want to create a school district where they are thriving, where your students are thriving, where our educators are thriving, because there are systems of support where everything is working together in order to support the educator and the student. Okay. In order to do that, we asked our members, we wanted to get some feedback. Our members being the educators that are working with your students, right? We asked them, what is it that you need? It was a pretty extensive list. We're going to go through some of the highlights that you hear today, and then we're actually going to go through some of the highlights from your responses because we asked you as a community as well. Okay, so here are some of the responses that we saw. We asked them to either strongly agree, have a neutral opinion, disagree, or strongly disagree. On the question of lowering class sizes, so lowering class sizes would improve my students' learning. 93% of our educators said strongly agree or agree. For our educators in the room, how many of you, raise your hand if you agree with that statement? Okay, thank you. Only 6% had a neutral position and 1% that said either disagree or strongly disagree. And then when we asked, well, how important is it to you that Fresno Unified actually address that, you could see the responses. 63% said extremely important, 23% said very important. So that's about 86%, right? And then you could see that number go. So not only are your educators saying that that is an important thing in order to improve student learning, but you also see them saying the district needs to address this, and it's important that they do. Literacy, obviously our academics are all important, and when we talk about thriving, we're talking about systems of support. In order to have a system of support, you need a plan. And so we asked our educators, do you feel like Fresno Unified has an actionable plan? Not just words on a piece of paper, but an actionable plan in order to address a few items. The first one, student academic needs. Only 31% of our educators said that they felt like Fresno Unified had a plan. That's not a good number, right? 23 said that they feel like there is no plan, and then 46 said that they were unsure. When we went a little bit deeper into the idea of literacy, only 25% of our educators felt like there was an actionable plan in order to address literacy. Another 26 said that there was no plan, and 49 said they were unsure. Again, alarming numbers in regards to, do we have those systems of support in order to thrive? And finally, we asked our educators, do you feel like there's a plan in order to recruit and retain the best quality educators for our students, right? As the largest employer in the Valley, the largest school district in the Valley, we should have the best educators, right? We should be doing all that we can in order to attract and retain the best educators. And right now, only 18% of our folks feel like there is a plan in order to do that. You'll hear often from our teachers that they are asked to do many things. There's a lot of things on their plate. We asked the question about how many times, on an average week, if you work beyond your contracted hours, right? 95% say on an average week they do. Not only on a day, they're there on the weekend, they're here at the school site because they care about their students. But they also need to be supported in the work that they're doing, right? And maybe some of that work that they're doing could be in a system of support by somebody else besides the teacher, somebody that specializes in something else, and we'll get to some of that, okay? We asked the question, is there enough time in your workday to meet all the responsibilities that are put on your plate? Only 6% said that there was enough time. We need to change this system in order for our teachers to be able to give their absolute best to their students. When everything is put on their plate, the amount of things that they could do and the quality in which they could do starts to dwindle. You'll hear often about the things, then what are the things that kind of take away from the time, right? And we'll hear from our position a lot of meetings. For those of you who are parents, there are a number of meetings that teachers are required to go to. And they feel like those meetings could have more relevant information, or they could be doing other things in order to plan for your students, right? So when we ask the question, are they a valuable use of your time? Only 19% said they agreed. 34% disagreed, and 34 said neither, and 47% disagreed, right? So here we've identified an issue in regards to time. We said, here's the thing that we might be able to change, right? And so now we need to work to change it, and you'll see a little bit more about that. In a past survey, we asked our teachers, what do you need most in order to meet your academic needs of your students? And you could see the larger numbers are the most frequent words that came up. Time, students, right? But it's not just the academics in the classroom that impact the classroom, right? It is also some of the behaviors. We know that some of our students need additional support. And oftentimes it falls on the teacher to provide all that additional support in large class sizes. And so instead of having systems of support outside of the classroom in order to meet that student's need, that teacher has to try to meet the need while also meeting the need of 30 other students. And when that takes away the time, or a lot of time, then those other students are not getting all that they need from that teacher. And you see that right here. Do I feel supported? Only 47% of teachers feel supported in dealing with those student behaviors, having that support necessary so that way the student has the support that they need. That needs to change. And finally this. So we're here to gather your input, gather your voice. And we see an alarming result here. When we asked our educators, do you feel like your voice and input are valued by the central office? Only 8% agreed. That is an alarming number. And if you have a response online, you want to go ahead and type whether you agree, maybe you disagree, you have a comment. I'm not going to ask folks to raise their hand here, but I would imagine that a lot of them may feel the same way. So here we have a system where people feel like they're surviving, like their voice isn't heard, and those are the people that are in the classroom with your students. And we need to change that system in order to support those people so that way they could support your students. So what does the community survey look like? You're here today because you probably received information about our community survey, about this meeting, and we wanted to hear from you. And we're going to hear a little bit more from you tonight, but here's some of the initial results. And if you haven't taken the survey, make sure to look at our feed. You'll be able to see it, take the survey as we gather more and more information. We asked the question, to what extent do you think your children enjoy going to your child's school? Right? A great deal, 17%. A lot, 30%. A moderate, around 37%. When only half of our students enjoy going to school, there's an issue there. How do we create those engaging environments, right, where they love going to school? And you're going to hear that terminology here tonight often. Safety is a big issue for the parents here. Is safety a big concern for you? Raise your hand if safety is a big concern for you. Okay. We asked the question, overall, how safe does your child feel at school? Very safe, 31%. Somewhat safe, 21%. When only half of our students feel safe, there's an issue, and we have to address it, whatever that might be. Whether that's infrastructure issues, or other issues. We need to figure this out so that way our students want to come to school, one. Number two, that they feel safe coming to school. And I would imagine, I'll ask our educators here, how many of you have some similar concerns about your safety? Anybody? Okay. Communication is big, right? We asked, am I informed about all the opportunities and supports offered by my school? Only 49% said that they agree that they know what is happening at their school site. All schools should have strong communication with their parents so that way they know what is happening at their school site and what supports are offered for their student. And finally, we asked the same question that we asked of our educators. Do you feel as a community that your voice is being heard? Only 34% of folks agreed. Only 34% of our parents and our community members felt like their voice was being heard, and that's just not acceptable for our school district. It's not acceptable for any school district, let alone the third largest school district in California. So, who's ready to change that? Right? Right? We need to change that. So we put out a call to action, said it is time to change that. And I'm going to use a quick analogy here. We're going to date ourselves here. Who knows what that is on the left-hand side? Does anybody know? All right. Some of the older folks in the room, the more veteran folks in the room, I'll say. That thing on the left, for those who may not know, is a rotary phone. And like you literally had to turn the dial one number at a time if you don't know how to use that. This is a good analogy in regards to what education is like. Education used to be just like that rotary phone, right? The way people thought, the decision makers, the policy makers, that students just go to school, they're filled up with knowledge, they leave, maybe they get a job, maybe they go to college. Education has evolved, education has changed what it does and who it serves and how it serves them, right? Think of it more like this iPhone. It no longer just makes calls, right? You could order food, right? You could connect with people. You could communicate. That is a full-service phone right there, a long ways from that rotary phone. And just like that full-service phone, it's a whole picture. We need to change, evolve our picture of what education is so that way we are serving the whole child, right? And not compartmentalizing just the academics. It's the academics plus. And here's how we could do that. Here's our call to action as an organization. And then we're going to get into, what do you think? What is your voice? What is your input? We're going to share some ideas. So think of it like this. We think of our classroom, our campus, and our community first. Because like any good idea, we imagine classrooms where students develop a love for learning. How do they do that? By engaging with meaningful and relevant ideas. Parents. Oftentimes your teacher feels handcuffed with what they could teach their students. Our educators want to teach things that are relevant and engaging to our students so that way they are engaged, that way they want to come to school and they love learning. We want to create that environment in our classrooms. Oftentimes it is test prep, okay? Oftentimes they have to just prepare for tests, and that's something we want to get away from. We imagine campuses where physical, social, and emotional well-being is as important as academic aptitude. Yes, it is academics, wholeheartedly. But it's not either or, it's both and. It's academics, and it's also their emotional well-being. We want them to leave school not only loving how to learn, but also loving themselves, loving who they are, and loving their community. We imagine a school district where our greatest strengths meet our deepest needs, a classroom-centered district where student and teacher expertise are valued and supported. A school district that values the unique strengths of individuals and the collaborative power of community. This is important. Too often, our educators and our students come into this school district and they learn their weaknesses and deficiencies before they ever learn their strengths. We want a school district where we are doubling down on their strengths, where our strengths are identified both as students and as educators. It's not to say that interventions are not necessary and interventions are not needed. Absolutely, it's always both and, it's not either or. Those things are needed, but let's show kids how strong they are in certain areas. Let's show what parts of their personalities are just absolutely amazing. And let's do the same thing for our educators. I'm giving you a little bit of a glimpse for our parents. Too many times educators come in their first, second, third year, and they have an amazing thing. They have their own personality, their own way of doing things that really connects with students. And oftentimes, they're compared to the person next door. Well, why are you not doing it that way? I'm not doing it that way because those are not my strengths. Same thing with our students. We want to be able to engage our students in a way where they're learning their strengths and leveraging that. And then understanding that our strengths as individuals play a part in our community. And lastly, we imagine working together, and this is the start of it here tonight, working together as a community with a shared responsibility. And what we mean by that is shared responsibility starts from the very beginning. That means that we are saying we're in this together, we're designing it together, and we're going to hold each other accountable together. So shared responsibility between parents, educators, and the school district, a community working together to address issues that impact learning, because what happens in the community impacts the classroom, and what happens in the classroom impacts the community. We cannot get away from that, okay? How are we supporting our students both inside and outside because they impact each other? So that's our vision as Fresno Teachers Association, right? That's kind of the 30,000 foot level, the general. And we're here tonight to talk about what are the specifics? What does that look like? We want your input. If we were to develop a school district where people feel loved and they feel valued and they develop a love for learning, they learn what their strengths are, what does that look like? What is happening that's not happening? We'll get to that. But first, let's talk about investing in our students. Because you may be asking, that's fine, Manuel, but how are we going to pay for that? How are we going to make that happen? Well, I'm going to show you. All of this is just about budgeting. This district can make anything it wants happen. The numbers that you see up there are the total available funds to this school district starting in school year 2018 to 19, and you can see the annual number from there. In the school year 2018-19, that is a $1.1 billion total available funds, $1.1 billion. For this school year, budgeted amount is 1.9, almost double. $2 billion. And I could tell you, because right now, school board is actually meeting, they're talking about the budget. From the time that they put their budget out in June, the end of June, to now, they have an additional $115 million. There is money to do this. There's money to meet the needs of our students and money to meet the needs of our educators. It's just about priorities and whether or not people are going to make it happen. In order to talk a little bit before we get your input, your feedback tonight, in order to talk about, well, what is it, some of the ideas that we've had so far, I'm going to bring up our executive director, Mr. Lewis Jamerson.
So I'm going to try to use this mic because I've been told that I need to do this tonight. You all know, those of you who do know me, that I don't like using a microphone, but I will do my best this evening. First off, I think about what's possible in our district. And I think about what our students actually need. And what I know is that we can meet pretty much every need that our students have. We could have met those needs back when we were at $1.1 billion. We could have met those needs back when we had $500 million. Some of this isn't about how much money the district has. Some of this is about what are priorities. Some of this is about how much are we going to demand that the district provide for our kids. I'll give you an example. Earlier today, I received an email that the district has increased its commitment to consultants. Last year, they spent $62 million for consultants. This year, they're projecting to spend $125 million for consultants. So, is that the priority for our district? To bring in outside folks to help make decisions that aren't meeting the needs of our students. But some of this is our fault. Some of this is our fault. We're allowing the district to make these decisions without any accountability. We're not going to board meetings demanding that they not spend that $125 million on consultants. Instead, why don't you put that to our students? We haven't done that. Tonight, it's time for us to consider what we're going to do about the demands to meet the needs of our students. Our plan, first, we want at least one reading specialist hired at all elementary school sites. You'll see that on the sheet it says about a $12.2 million investment. We think it's important because we have, if you look at the data, about 65% of our third graders are getting to third grade and they're at least one grade behind reading. If you can't read, you're going to struggle in every subject matter. Class size capped at 1 to 18 at our elementary schools with lowest performing students. It's a fact that the more time students have with teachers, the better they perform. The way to create that opportunity is to make sure that we have smaller class sizes so that our teachers can have more one-on-one time with our students. Mandatory free tutoring for all students at secondary who have C's, D's, and F's. Some families in this district have the resources to do that. A lot of our families in this district do not have those resources. The resources are available in our district. Why not provide that to our students that are struggling academically? District provided extension transition programs and services for all students who age out of foster care services. Programs provided through Fresno Adult School. It's pretty simple. We have thousands of students in our system that are in foster programs. They do not have access to resources once they get to a certain age. We have a way to do that, and yet we're not doing it. District partnered with FPU to provide paid master's in literacy classes for 20 teachers per year, about $600,000. We think it's important to create our own pipeline of teachers that can help our students learn how to read. How novel of an idea is that? Dual enrollment expansion. District partners with Fresno State to provide paid master's degree that would make teachers eligible to teach dual enrollment classes, 30 teachers per year. We have a number of students at the secondary level who are in dual enrollment. Essentially what that is when students are in a class at high school, they're also taking a class at a college and they're getting dual credit. It's called dual enrollment. We want to make sure that we expand those opportunities for our students. Free universal after-school programs. For some parents that have to work late, work multiple jobs, this is an opportunity for your children to have a safe place, both to be and to have resources that they need at that school site. District set aside $1 million annually, for students to do college tours with an emphasis on underserved students visiting historically black colleges and universities and other institutions who support culturally disadvantaged students. Years ago when I was in high school, I was in a program, Upward Bound, that exposed me to college. And I credit that program with wanting to go to school. I did go to college. I have a couple of degrees. I don't know if I would have done that without the program. It inspired me. We don't do that enough. We should expand that. We're willing to put our money where our mouth is. At the Fresno Teachers Association, we have a foundation. We want to create Jumpstart scholarships. The idea here is to start students at 9th grade, giving them $500 per year to encourage them to keep their grades up so that they can apply for college scholarships. More academics, increase small group instruction by increasing the number of paraprofessional support staff to create more flexibility around instruction time. We're not just advocating for our members, we're saying we need more paraprofessionals in our system. All elementary schools should offer high quality tutoring programs focused on fundamental literacy skills. So reading and other skills at elementary, we need to have our kids ready. Creation of freshman success teams at all high schools. Again, we want to make sure that as our kids are landing in this new learning environment in high school, that they're successful. We want to create programs to make sure and usher them through, especially that first year. Full-time staff person at each high school dedicated to helping students research and apply for college scholarships. When I was in school, counselors were able to do this, but they are too stretched to provide this resource for our kids. We have the money, let's bring in folks that can do this for our students. Alternatives to suspension established at all middle schools by 2024 to help to improve student discipline. Hire a trained and experienced behavioral specialist at each school site. Listen, we understand that some of our kids are challenged, have issues before they come in our classrooms. It's not acceptable to expect our teachers to be able to manage all those issues. We need to have those supports outside the classroom. President Bonilla talked about that earlier. This is a way to do some of that. District set aside $1 million annually for clothes and school supplies for students who need them. We delivered, the Fresno Teachers Association delivered jackets and sweaters to an elementary school in January of this year. When we got to the school site, the principal said to us that some of the students at an elementary school in a district with almost $2 billion were without sweaters and jackets for the entire winter. That shouldn't happen. District create food pantry in each region. We have 7 regions, including deodorant, feminine hygiene products, shampoo and conditioner, and soap. I've heard a number of stories from teachers in our district that some of our students do not come to school that time of the month because they can't afford those products. Again, we have $2 billion. That should be easy. It should be in every bathroom. Implementation of chess and other educationally based enrichment programs. We know that some of our students are excited about other things, skateboarding, video games. We need to utilize their excitement in those programs as a way to create these schools built on love. District provide free wellness programs to students and parents. Yoga, meditation, low impact exercise. Programs could be done at school sites, outdoors or in gyms on weekends. Not every student wants to play football or basketball, but we do need to think about mental health, right? So when we talk about physical health and social emotional support, this would help with that. We also need to address student homelessness. About 4,000 of our students are unhoused in this district every day. 4,000 of our babies are dealing with some form of homelessness in this district tonight. And there's no plan that I've seen that we're addressing this issue. Has anyone seen a plan? Okay, so I'm not the only one. Open high school parking lots to homeless school district families to park their cars. This is interesting because one of the critiques that came back on this one was, well, Manuel Lewis, FTA leadership, what are you doing? Won't that make our schools unsafe? We are never going to propose anything that's going to create an unsafe environment for our babies or our professionals. There's a way to do this where it doesn't impact our schools. And if that's a problem, all we want to do is sit down and talk about a solution. Because if it's not our school's parking lots, maybe we're renting a parking lot somewhere else for folks to park and to be safe. District provide free laundry service for students. We have kids that don't want to come to school because their clothes are dirty, they're embarrassed. That creates some of the behavioral problems in classrooms. We're saying, let's address that issue, set aside some resources to do that. And listen, some of these programs can be done in conjunction with our community partners, our city council, our state, our federal government to draw down resources to provide some of these. District open all school sites as parks on weekends during non-sporting events. We do not have enough green space in our community. We understand that sometimes our schools have activities, but when they're not utilizing that space for activities, why not open it up for the community? So, what do folks think? I see some head shaking, like we're headed in the right direction. Yes? So here's the beauty of this. We're not done. The reason we ask for folks to join us tonight and that we're on Facebook Live is because we want your input. On November the 8th, in about, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we're going to be presenting a list of what we call interest-based items, proposals to Fresno Unified that we want done. We are bargaining with the district now. We're going to bring these items and any other items you think we should bring to the table to bargain for our students and our adults in the system. So we want to hear from you. We don't think this is everything. We know we're missing some items. That's why we invited you here. We want to hear from you. I'm going to turn it back over to President Bonilla. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. So that's absolutely right. We're not saying that we have all the answers, right? We need to hear from everybody involved. That list was developed from the patterns that we see from the educators and parents that we talk to, and that's why we want to hear from you here tonight and online. If you have comments, we know that there are folks commenting and just kind of seconding the idea of smaller class sizes, making sure that our classrooms have more paras in there, paraprofessionals in there in order to provide support, right? That our SPED is improved in order to meet the needs of our special education students, right? We want to hear from you. We're going to listen here tonight. Today is about identifying concerns. What are some of the concerns that you see? What are some of the issues that you see? And then 2 weeks from today, we're going to be back here and we're going to design solutions together. We're going to say, what are the solutions from a parent's perspective, working together with educators, right? So I always ask 3 questions, 3 basic questions whenever I go to a school site. I ask, what is happening that needs to continue? What is happening that needs to stop happening? And what is not happening that actually needs to start? So I want you just to reflect a little bit on those questions. Again, if you are online, you could go ahead and start responding. Here tonight, live, we're going to respond to each of those items. And I know it says we're going to form a line. You don't have to worry about that. We have a crowd here. We'll just go to you, and you could go ahead and use the mic, right? We'll just ask that you say your name and then speak your comment, right? So the first thing is, what is happening in our schools right now that just needs to stop? Okay, raise your hand. We have one over here.
My name is Eileen. There's no safe for the elementary, and only they're giving voices for middle school and high school. Elementary students are left out all the time because I'm always attending the budget meeting that you're saying to that, and I always see the proposal of the people is always in the middle school and high school. How about elementary schools? How about elementary kids? That's not helping us.
Yeah, so making sure that elementary issues are addressed. What else, what do you see that needs to stop in elementary? Let's go ahead and get specific. What do you see from your lens that needs to stop then?
Some parents are bringing their kids earlier, and their ignorances when the kids are being left outside the schools. This need to be stopped already.
So making sure that, right. So making sure that we have an agreement from our parents to make sure that the kids are, and then if they are, that there's support at our school sites in order to support them that doesn't come back solely on the educator. Gotcha. Okay. Anybody else? Any other question or any other hands? I see 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. We'll go ahead and go right here.
Mi respuesta es en español. Mi nombre es Gloria. Vengo de las primarias Hidalgo y Win. Siento que como padres, usted lo acaban de decir, son estudiantes, padres y maestros, pero como padres, en este año, a partir en que empezamos los años ya en presenciales, nos sentimos excluidos. Y si no trabajamos juntos, los niños no se mueven. Si usted quiere que yo me preocupe por mi hijo, pero no me siento atraída a la escuela, ¿cómo yo puedo envolverme con mi hijo? Si me siento desplazada, lo único que va a pasar es que no voy a estar atenta, pues ya que hagan lo que quieran. Uno no tiene decisión, uno no puede hacer nada y nomás nos separamos de los niños. No sé si me están traduciendo bien. Entonces, si yo me siento separada, lo voy a poner en un ejemplo. Mi hija sacó D y le digo a mi hija, ok, no quiero D, sácame C para arriba. Y le presioné y luego a la semana volví a hablar con ella. Ok, ¿qué está pasando? La D sigue. Quiero que hables con la maestra y le pidas opción. Tuve que acercarme con la maestra después la segunda vez. Y me acerqué con la maestra y la maestra me aclara bien. Pero cuando quieres acercarte a la escuela en general, hay 5 personas porque no nos sentimos bienvenidas. En la escuela no estamos bienvenidos como padres. No resuelven nuestras dudas y nuestros conflictos para ayudar a los niños.
¿De qué escuela está usted?
En Hidalgo.
Hi, my name is Gloria, and I am from the Hidalgo School and Awin School, and I feel like we're not included, like we're not feeling heard, like we're not being helped. So I feel like we're being extricated and just set apart, and we're not being listened to. My daughter comes home from school with a D, and I said, I don't want you to give me a D. I want you to give me a C or above. And I feel like the the teachers, like they don't work with us, like we're not being heard, we're not being felt like we're part, like we don't feel like we're being included. And there's 5 of us, and I feel like we're not being taken into account.
No, y sí, es que no nos sentimos bienvenidos. Yo creo que muchos padres de aquí se identifican. No se sienten bienvenidos a la escuela. Y para poder que el niño sobresalga, aparte de todo lo que acaban de decir y todo lo que quieren, necesitamos también nosotros participar y estar ahí.
We're not feeling welcomed, and I'm sure that there's other parents. I don't know if they feel the same way as well, and if they want their children, if they want the children to thrive and to do as well as everything that they said they're going to do, we need to feel like to help us. We need to feel like we're being welcomed and worked with and heard. That's it.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing. We really appreciate that, and that's why we want to be here tonight, so that way you can feel heard and that we work together in 2 weeks to really develop what those solutions are. I think that you saw, let me wait for her to get the translate. I think that you saw that, oh, gotcha, thank you. Your English is better than my Spanish, I promise you. And so, again, thank you for being here and expressing that. We want to make sure that we're working together with your teachers. I think that if you were to talk or hear from our teachers, you would see that many of them feel the same way that you feel within this system as well. They feel like they're not also heard, and so working together, parents and teachers, so that way everybody gets the support in order to make an impact on your students. So thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate that. We'll make sure that as we take notes that we're talking about how is it that we create a more welcoming space for our parents, and how do we create those partnerships at each of the school sites. So thank you. And I invite you back in 2 weeks so that way you could help us design what that might look like for you, okay? All right, I think there was one hand back there and over here, so I'll go ahead and go back. And in fact, can we You guys control this particular mic as well? Okay, awesome. Let me get it so I could have. Did you have your hand up? Yeah, right over here. Yep. They'll get it right now.
Good evening. My name is Desiree Johnson. I'm a para. I work in SPED at Hoover High School. As you know, here recently we had a lot of stuff going on, and one of the main things we had going was losing a student due to a car. Okay, me, a lot of parents, a lot of educators, and admins are coming up with ideas, but first and foremost, we're coming up with an idea to help control the traffic from the stoplight on Bullard and First to the stoplight on Barstow and First, so as to prevent something like this ever happening again. And if those of you who don't know, a young man lost his life, okay? He was a freshman, and we're going through a lot of it right now, a lot of trauma there going on that campus. And yes, we have supports in place for all of us. But the suggestion is like to put them, what do you call those cones or them flat things, the speed things, to remind people you need to slow down. It needs to be more lights in the evenings because Hoover is dark. That road is dark. Even though the accident happened during daylight, it still is dark. And I know because I've been there after hours. That school is always open. They have sporting events 7 days a week at the school. And if not, work on getting a stoplight between the other two lights. Awani has one. Walters have one, okay? So that's an elementary school up the way and a middle school up the way. Then you have this huge high school, which both of those schools feed into. But then you have the neighborhood where a lot of these students are coming from. They need to be safe.
Yeah, we
They need to be safe.
We absolutely hear you, and our deepest sympathies go out to the family for sure. We think that this is a good example in regards to being proactive versus being reactive. And many times, if you hear from our educators, the district is often reactive. Instead of being proactive by working with and reaching out to the city and finding out what might we do in order to make our streets safer.
They're not doing anything.
Right.
They have been told.
And
we've been on this, and the district has done nothing.
you,
I come to work every day. I see these people. They drop their kids off, they pull out real fast, and boom. And then I see them because I'm sitting there waiting to turn into the parking lot. As soon as you turn into the parking lot, you still got someone coming around. Another car is going apparently too slow. Boom.
absolutely
And so
right. Yeah.
The district knows this. They have avoided, evaded, and done everything possible not to hear it or deal with it.
And so
You're
what?
dealing with upgrades everywhere.
Right.
Upgrade that.
Right.
Save a life.
You're absolutely right. And as Lewis mentioned earlier, then it is on us to hold them accountable to those things, right? And make them more proactive, and in this case, helping to save lives. Thank you for that. Right over here.
They got all the money.
Here.
Make it happen.
¿Tiene aparato para? Okay, okay. Okay. Okay.
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Flores.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Flores.
Sé que todos tenemos una razón por la cual estamos aquí, right? So, son nuestros estudiantes.
I know that we all have a reason for being here, and it's our students.
Mi mayor
Right.
preocupación para mí y que tienen que parar porque es un desastre total
My biggest concern for me, and that it has to stop because it's a complete and absolute disaster,
es el incremento de estudiantes comenzando con el área de kinder.
The increase in students starting with kindergarten.
¿Por qué razón? Porque mi hija estuvo 2 años, todos mis 3 hijos 2 años pasan por preschool.
The reason is that all my 3 children go through preschool for 2 years,
And then kinder.
and then kindergarten.
So en kindergarten tienen en mi escuela 30 estudiantes.
So in kindergarten, in my school, they have 30 students.
Yo no puedo con 3.
I cannot handle 3.
No quiero imaginar a mis maestros cómo se sienten de frustrados.
I cannot imagine my teachers how frustrated they feel.
So, mi punto es, si ellos comenzaran con una estrategia para poder ayudar a estudiantes, lo digo porque hay muchas mamás que no tenemos el conocimiento de que los niños pueden estar desde el embarazo escuchando y recibiendo información.
My point is that if they can find this tragedy, because I can imagine that the moms, if they can start from the beginning, from pregnancy, if they can be receiving, taking information,
Entonces, los meten hasta que la ley lo requiere. Creo que es a los 5 años, right?
so they put them in until the law requires it. I think it's like when they're 5, right?
Entonces, muchas mamás a veces no lo hacen o no saben porque trabajan o porque no pueden con sus hijos o porque de plano a veces dicen somos muy lazy, haraganas, ¿no?
Or maybe moms say it because they don't know, or they're at work, or they can't handle their children, or just like plainly they're just like, we're too lazy.
Entonces, la mayor preocupación para mí ahorita no es porque ella está en kinder, porque a pesar de que ella está en kinder, llega a mi casa y yo le enseño, porque tengo esa capacidad de hacerlo.
My biggest concern is that right now she's in kindergarten, and then she goes home and I teach her, not because she's in kindergarten, but because I'm able to do it.
Entonces, yo lo que quisiera que pararan es el incremento de estudiantes, especialmente en las escuelas de doble inversión, porque sabemos, y muchos de los que están aquí saben, que ese programa es muy importante, ya que si salen de 6º grado, ya son bilingües.
And what I would like for it to stop is for the increased amount of students that they put in these double immersion programs, because by the time that they're in the 6th grade, they're already bilingual students by then.
Entonces, ¿por qué no comenzar desde los más pequeños, que son el futuro, son los que van a estar aquí parados en unos 20, 30 años?
So why not start with the youngest, because they're our future. They're the ones that are going to be standing here in front of you on like 20 to 30 years.
Para mí esa es una de las cuestiones más importantes. Otra de las cosas la cual no entiendo,
It's one of the most important things for me, something else of which I do not understand.
¿por qué mixtean, no sé si es así la palabra correcta, a los niños muy hiperactivos con con niños que necesitan una educación especial?
Why do they mix children that are very hyperactive with children that need have special educational needs?
¿Por qué lo hacen de esta manera?
Why they do it
Let
like
me-
this?
¿Por qué lo hacen de esta manera si saben que ellos tienen que automáticamente tener un maestro especial para eso?
If they they know that they automatically need a special educator for this.
Creo que es todo por ahí, pero si me
I-
vas quedando.
Come on. I think that's it.
The applause from our educators, because it's great to hear parents that are also seeing the same thing that we're seeing in regards to the class sizes, right? It is hard. Our educators want to only give their best to the students hard when we have so many. And so that's number one, what we're here tonight, right? And say, like, do you agree? It sounds like you do. And so we're going to be fighting that fight together. But in regards to your question about our special education students. We want to give the best environments to all of our students and the opportunity for those students to have learning environments that are inclusive. But this is the thing about setting things up for success in our school district. The school district oftentimes does not set up our general ed or our sped students up for success because they have the number of students in the class, special education students, gets really high. And the teachers don't have the training in order to figure out how to address both needs. And that's where it gets really difficult. And so if we're going to do it, what we're saying is do it in a way that is going to set up both the educator and the student for success. So thank you for that. Really quickly, because I want to make sure that we get.
I was talking with my principal, she's very accessible, and then she told me, like, it doesn't matter if you have 30 kids. So the district told me that I need to put more and more and more in. It's not, I say, no, teacher, no more, please.
That's absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We need to get to a point where it's not just numbers on a spreadsheet, but people, our students, their lives, that's where we need to get. And that's when we talk about that call to action, right? I have a couple other people.
Sí, mi nombre es María Jardón.
My name is Maria Hardon.
Mis hijos van en la escuela Jackson.
My children go to Jackson School.
Mi director es el señor Rodolfo González.
My director is Mr. Rodolfo Gonzalez.
Mi hijo es un niño de educación especial.
My son is a child with special needs.
Mi hijo es discriminado por su maestra en el salón.
And my son is getting discriminated by his teacher in his classroom.
Su maestra es la señora Maribel Molinero.
His teacher is Ms. Maribel Molinero.
Yo he pasado días en la escuela y he observado eso por parte de la escuela.
I spent days in the school, in the clase, ¿verdad? And I spent days in the classroom and for days, and I've observed that from the teacher.
Aparte que por el personal de la escuela, como el director y los maestros ya no somos bien vistos.
Besides by the personnel in the school, the director and the teachers were not well seen anymore.
En el salón de la educación especial también hoy me pasé todo el día ahí.
In the classroom of special ed, I spent my entire day there today.
Mi niño hoy se estaba rascando la nariz y la maestra de educación le dijo cochino.
My son was scratching his nose, and the special ed teacher called him dirty, like a pig.
La señora Karina Ortiz es la supuesta señora de educación especial.
Miss Karina Ortiz is supposedly the special education teacher. ¿Puedo interrumpir un poco?
So we definitely want to make sure that we hear whatever the concern is in regards to that, and we definitely want to hear, oh, sorry, I'll wait for the translation. We want to hear the concern, and if there's, again, something you want to speak to that needs to stop, we definitely want to hear that. But I also want to make sure that we're fair to people in a public forum when we're talking about specific people's names, right? I want to make sure that we're also fair to them because, number one, they're not here to either defend themselves or to anything else. And so I want to make sure that we're absolutely fair, particularly when not only are we in a public forum here, but we're also online. So if there is an individual concern that you would like to speak with, then I'd be happy to stay with you afterwards and we could definitely talk. If there is a more general concern about what we could do as a school system, then that's what we want to make sure that we hear today. So we want to make sure if there is an individual concern that we absolutely hear that. But again, I want to make sure that we're fair to folks that are not here, okay? Okay.
That's why I want to make that public, because the school and the district is not doing anything about it.
Again, thank you for that. And you could we could definitely talk to us and we could tell you a little bit more about that particular process, right? But again, I want to make sure that we're fair to folks that are not here. Are there any additional comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Argentina Cueto. One of my concerns is about the amount of counselors in every high school. The one thing I would like to point is it's so many students for each counselor. So it's never gonna be like enough time for them to address everything needed for every student. And it's important the position, because if a teacher knows something about importance about students, it's needed to be somebody to be coordinate between parents, teacher, school district, programs, because all the example proposal is excellent. Mental health, wellness, everything. But sometimes we need it's very important, coordinator, parents, students, teachers, because teachers need to be focused in academic, but they know something, they need to address to somebody to follow that. No need to wait until students show a sign of depression. We don't need to wait until they want to kill themselves or something. We need to start with everything is minor before grow up. So for me, it's very important to point that we need a coordinator, more students, more coordinators. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's absolutely one of our points. So thank you for pointing that out. We talk often about this idea of lowering class sizes, which is absolutely important. And I know that it's important too, but not just that, and not just more counselors and all of that, because even if we did get all of that, that's not going to fix the problem, right? It's exactly what you're talking about. We need to have a plan, a system, coordination, so that way everything is working together in order to serve the student. If you were to ask the employees here tonight, right, many of them would probably say that it feels like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in our district. That they hear one thing from one person, another thing from another person, another thing from another person, and when that confusion happens, we're not able to serve the student as well. So absolutely, we're talking about not just these pieces, but making sure that they all work together in order to serve the student. So thank you very much. And plus you're a Giants fan, I like that too. Sorry for the Dodgers fan over here. All right, other hand. So we have a hand up over here. And this will be our last question for this particular item, and then we will move on to what's not happening that needs to start, and then we will be wrapping up for the evening as we talk about next steps. Go for it.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches a todos. Definitivamente esta es mi primera vez.
Give me 1 second so that way, there you go.
Good afternoon, good evening. This is my first time.
Y estoy aquí también para hacerme escuchar en mi escuela lo que está pasando y que definitivamente tiene que parar, que el personal que trabaja con los niños de necesidades especiales esté capacitado, porque para ellos
I'm here to be heard, and what I've seen in the schools is that the personnel and at the schools that they're capacitated for children with special needs.
si hay fondos, ¿cómo es que el distrito contrata a cualquier persona para que venga a trabajar con los niños de necesidades especiales?
If there's so much funds in the district, the $2 billion, then how is it possible that they'll just hire anybody off the street to come and work with the children with special needs?
Cada vez los niños se atrasan más precisamente porque creo que yo como mamá puedo enseñarle más mejor en mi casa que la maestra.
And then I think that the children, every time they fall behind more, because I think like a mom here, I can teach my child better than the teacher can.
No tan solo la escuela Jackson, que es de la que yo vengo, viola los derechos de mi hijo y de los demás estudiantes, sino el mismo distrito. Gracias.
It's not the Jackson School where I come from that violates the rights of my child, but also the district as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for,
Of my child and the other children as well. I'm talking for everyone.
I'll wait for her to get back. Giving you your steps today. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. I'll wait for you. Thank you for your feedback for sure. And I'm sorry if you feel that way. I think that our educators are doing an amazing job, as I mentioned, in regards to the transformative work that they're doing. And I bet you there are some times when there are things that take place that maybe we do need to figure out how do we offer better support at our school sites, right? And how do we do so in a way that really values the work of everybody involved? You mentioned something in regards to getting anybody off the street. I really hope that that's not the case in regards to some of the work. However, when we do talk about that thing of workplace conditions and salary, you could see why it's important. Right now, our paras get about as much as somebody working at In-N-Out, right? Less than, right? You could go to In-N-Out, make $17 an hour, full-time, benefits, and the structure for our paras. We do not represent paras, but we know their worth in regards to the classroom and the support that they provide our teachers in order to provide support to our students. And when they are treated as such, then obviously we're not going to be able to recruit and retain the best paras that we can. So that's another systems issue that we definitely want to address. Thank you. The time that we have remaining, which is about another 10 to 15 minutes, I believe, we do have one more question, and that is, what is not happening that needs to start? We've kind of ventured into that category a little bit, and so I appreciate that, but I'm going to go ahead and come over here and then back over here. I see you. So, and if we could keep our questions or comments down to 2 minutes, so we just have enough time to make sure to get everybody in, I'd appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Cami, and I am an educator, and I'm also representing some families and young people at my church as well that is in the district. What's not happening that needs to start is more of providing more on the cultural aspect within the classroom, gathering community people and parents to help us add more cultural experiences and education, because if a child knows who they are and knowing that to walk in their skin comfortably and in their culture comfortably, I think we would create a future that is unbelievable. Also, what's not happening is more control of behavior and how you should conduct yourself in the classroom, because we're building up the next generation that's going to be our doctors, those who are taking care of us in the grocery stores and all that. Also, not addressing mental health within our children, and it's a real thing. And so I know that that's not happening as it should, and I know that that is due to not, let's see, like the finances going towards addressing children with mental health, which spills over into the classroom, and that can start at home because they're not provided with what they need, like trauma and foster care and all the things that we've already mentioned. So I just wanted to say that.
As always, thank you. You always have some great insight in regards to that. So thank you both as your work as an educator and representing your community. You're absolutely right. And that's one of the things that we talked about in that call to action, right? Making sure that our classrooms are representative of those that are in the classroom, that they find themselves in the curriculum and the stuff that is going on campus. I could tell you from personal experience that she does a great job of that in her classroom. And making sure that the systems are set up and that everybody is given permission, if you will, throughout the district in order to do that, because a lot of teachers feel as if they can't do that because of the systems that are put in place, right, through our curriculum and whatnot. And so thank you for highlighting that, and then making sure, again, like you said, we need to address those issues because it is the whole child. So thank you for that comment. Yes.
My question is, what's not happening is students that have to have speech services. Why is the district paying out-of-town speech teachers instead of paying people here, right here, in the district, here in Fresno.
I hope we have some SLPs online tonight. Well, I hope we have them watching. In fact, I'm going to invite our executive director because he's pretty intimate on this topic. He understands this topic a lot, so I want to have him come up and explain that one.
So the system is broken. So here's what happens. The district sets aside a budget to hire a certain number of speech-language pathologists in our district. They then turn around and try to find people to fill those positions that are out of college, and some of them are already practicing speech-language pathologists. They then try to offer them a wage that is lower than what they can make in almost every other district in the valley. And then they tell them, you have to come to Fresno where you're going to have a challenging caseload. So you're going to make less money for more work. So guess what happens? They can't hire them. So then, because they've set this money aside, they then go out and contract with a third-party vendor to find speech language. And guess what? They pay them a lot more money. They pay an outside speech language pathologist $80 an hour. Plus, because they have because the speech language pathologist that works for a vendor doesn't have a credential, they have to hire a specialized para that they didn't pay $30 an hour. So they pay 80 plus 30 to cover one position that would be in our district. So this is both a financial issue. We're talking with the district about that, but it's also about respecting people's work and caseloads and making sure that not only do we hire people and pay them correctly, but that we also allow them to work in a way where they can manage a caseload that doesn't overwhelm them, overburden them, and make work even more difficult. So we're working on that.
Thank you. You're next, yeah.
Here. Are we coming here?
Yes, here and then over here.
Algo que debería de pasar, que no he comenzado, aunque ya nos han dicho que va a pasar, solucionando el problema de la señora que dice que no los deben de estar los niños, es que yo escuché que tenían que poner a la maestra, y si va un niño con educación especial, tiene que haber un asistente que sea de educación especial, y no ha pasado. A mi hijo sí lo acompañan porque yo he estado ahí, al pie, y su hora que le permiten en la educación, porque tengo un niño de educación especial y 4 de educación normal, que a mí me gustaría que lo incluyeran, ¿verdad? Pero no se puede, porque es gemelo de uno que es educación normal y mi niño con educación especial. No se puede, no me lo pueden incluir, porque mi hijo estaría cuidando a su hermanito, porque lo cuida.
So what I think that's not happening, that needs to start, that they said that was going to start happening, but it hasn't happened, is that every time they have a child with special educational needs, there needs to be an assistant there with the educator to help out. And it's what somebody else was talking about as well. In my situation, I have one child that is, and the reason it's happening because I've been there on top of it after just, insisting that it happens is that what happens is that I have a child that has special education needs, and I have 4 other children that are quote unquote normal. And so what happens is that I have one that has special education needs is a twin with the brother that is in a normal classroom. Is that for my child with the special education needs to be together, included with the other children, but it can't happen. It cannot happen because they're concerned that my child that's in a normal classroom is going to be taking care of his twin brother, which he does. He takes care of him.
También que necesitan leer, como yo soy madre de un niño especial autista, necesitan leer cuando uno somete las aplicaciones, porque cuando va el niño a clases y 15 minutos después te lo sacan de clases porque no leyeron la aplicación, necesitan leer lo que nos dicen que pongamos a leer a los niños, pues también lo necesita hacer la gente que recibe a los niños.
So also what happens is that they need to read because my child is special needs, he's autistic, and so they need to be able to read the application. So they say that we have to help them read. They also need to read themselves the applications that they have that we give to them in the schools when they accept the children.
Porque como madre de un niño diferente o con discapacidades diferentes, capacidades diferentes, es doloroso cuando nos discriminan estando allí, ya estando allí en clase y que te hablan y no lo podemos tener aquí porque no tenemos a alguien especial. Es
Like a mother with a child with special needs like me, it's very painful when they call you and they tell you on the phone, they tell you, we cannot have your child here with special needs because we don't have anybody in the classroom to help them with that. It's very painful.
Entonces, atendiendo lo que dijo la señora, debería de haber, aparte del maestro, también alguien con esa capacidad de atender a niños con necesidades diferentes.
So like the mother said, is that there should be somebody in the classroom besides the educator. They need to have somebody there that has training with a child with special needs.
Y dicen que va a pasar, entonces eso es lo que debería de empezar a pasar también. Así ya tendría, si hay 30 alumnos y 5 son de educación especial, pues ya cuando menos con 5, la otra maestra va a estar al pendiente y va a ser menos la frustración. Si no hay una maestra si no hay por lo menos que haya 2 maestras para la clase, si no hay para repartirlos en varias clases.
So if that needs to happen, that they're saying that's going to happen, it hasn't happened, is that if they have a classroom with 30 students and there's 5 with special needs, they need to have an extra person there to be paying attention to those 5 children, or if they don't have enough they don't have enough assistants to go to spread them among the classes, and they need to have at least 2 assistants there per classroom to help out with this.
Y porque quiero que, bueno, no como persona, pero creo que por muchos padres que son de niños especiales quieren lo que yo quiero, inclusión.
Not just like
Mi hijo vino a este mundo a vivir junto con todos. Si usted me lo empieza a separar, ahí ya no encajamos.
So me as a person, and also maybe like other parents as well that have a child with special needs, what my child came to this world is to feel included, to have inclusion. So we don't want him to feel like he's separated, like he's here and then he gets separated, excluded from everybody else, and then that's not what he came for. This is not.
So
It's what's not working.
Necesitamos que eso trabaje ya, porque hablan de eso, pero no trabajan.
We need for that to start working because they're saying they're going to work on that. They're going to do it, but they're not doing it.
So thank you. Oh, I'll wait for you to get back. Thank you again for sharing and being so vulnerable to share about the just hard time it is sometimes to be a mom and to want the best and to see that not happening because of the system not allowing that to happen. That's why we want to work together to make sure that there is somebody to support your student in the classroom along with our educator. And it's not fair when there are dozens and dozens and dozens, possibly hundreds of openings because they're not providing enough resources in order to make it happen. With a $2 billion budget, this shouldn't even be a question. But I hope that we could work together in order to make sure that it becomes a reality so that way your students get the support that is necessary in their classroom. So thank you.
Maybe I die tomorrow, I don't know. I want better work with my kid. You can give me that? I can go outside. You separate me kid of the class, of the work. This is not working for me. O sea, ¿sí me expliqué en inglés mucho? I don't know if you understand me, but
We do.
I feel the mothers separate.
Right.
Separate, and this happened for me every time, and for the other mothers here, this happened. I don't feel here.
Right.
I have 4 boys. And one boy I feel incomplete, you know? You can accept my kid. I don't know.
We're going to work together to fix that.
I feel this. I know she feels the same.
Right. In-
every father with the kids in special education feel the same.
Right.
I am in the FUSD like cuchillito de palo. I don't say that. I am. Yeah, I am insist that we need. I go to meetings like this.
Right.
I bring my kid. I don't have people to my kid with the special education, only for my other kids, and separate my kid. Stay with me in the same because not bring everything or separate simple, not separate the other group because you have people with the con los conocimientos, esa frase se me olvidó. No have people
Right. Right.
con los conocimientos necesarios en ese momento. Entonces, ¿para qué haces la reunión si me vas a excluir? Y yo ya desde ahí estoy excluida.
Right. Right.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you so much. Again, this is what we want. When we talk about our students aren't just names on a piece of paper. They're not numbers on a piece of paper. There are people that, and it's not right. It's not fair. If we were in charge of the school district, I guarantee you this wouldn't be happening. But I know that together we have the power to make that change happen.
I am here.
And I.
You need me the family with.
And we are here. And Maria, where's Maria? There she is. No, well, there's a few of them. Yeah. She was told that we were trying to block support. And we had a meeting and we talked together, said, here's the proposal. We actually want to lower the class size. We actually want more support. But she was told something different. And so thank you for being here tonight because we are going to work together in order to make that a reality. And just thank you for being vulnerable to do that. As a parent, I just appreciate that. Thank you. No problem. We have a couple of more and then we'll talk about next steps. Go for it.
Hi, my name's Amanda Shaka. My son attends Yakomi. I'm also a member of the children's movement here in Fresno. This is not a new thing that has come up. I've been in many meetings where paras are really a big sticking point, and I understand that FTA does not represent paras, but what can we do as a community to get the district, because honestly, I've been in a meeting with Bob who also sees this as a problem. So it's not, he's told us personally that it's a problem without it being even brought up, a lot of the special education. So, but how do we as a community go about there being maybe like a school type training that's paid for or something, so to have paras go through it, or to get paras paid more, or to get paras on full time with benefits, to make it a more appealing job, because the lack of paras is obviously a very big concern with parents. So what do we do as a community to help that not be a problem?
So I wasn't going to mention our superintendent here tonight, but since it has been mentioned, I will mention it now, and I hope that either he's watching or somebody's going to tell him. It frustrates me to hear that the superintendent of our school district, and we always have to qualify, he's a good guy, and he's a good guy. I'll say it right now, he's a great guy. But when you are in charge of the school district, and you could say, I see this as a problem, and then nothing happens, that's an issue. So to answer your question, we have to hold all the leaders accountable in regards to this. Because who is waking up in that leadership and saying, this is a problem, let's figure out a solution. So that way, we don't have mothers that are frustrated, that are crying out for help, and nobody's helping them.
May I chime in on this
Yes, for sure.
one? Yeah, some of this isn't super complicated. Again, pay them more money, let them work full time, give them benefits, and then why not have our own pipeline where we're developing, training our own paras? So that's easy. I just said it.
Well, but what I'm saying is it seems to be a theme. Where is the missing connection?
Well, you just said his name, so I won't repeat it. But that's the issue when someone in power at the top says there's a problem and yet is not working towards the solution.
That's absolutely right. 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 Thank you for sharing. And as Louis mentioned, there's some pretty simple steps that we could do as a district in order to address those things, and you also identified them as well. We only have a couple more questions. I want to make sure that we're going into our next step, so thank you, and I apologize for skipping you earlier.
Important stuff. My name is Melanie, and as both a parent and an employee of the district, my comment is the safety of our students. Why is it that, unfortunately, lately, all these shootings that's been happening, just recently, the ones in elementary schools, where is all the security and this money going to? The middle school and high schools. What about the elementary schools? The last shooting that happened was in an elementary school. Why can't elementary schools get some sort of security as well? Why is it only going to middle school and high schools? They gave all this money for these Promethean boards that went to elementary schools first. But yet when it comes to security, it's going to middle school and high schools.
Thank you so much for that. And you should know that not only is that out of general fund money that you saw, that $1.9 billion, the district has also, over the last few years, had a couple of bond measures that they've gone to the community to vote on in order to get additional money for improvements like this. So you're absolutely right. After that unfortunate shooting in Texas, we did do a survey with our membership to say, what are some of your safety concerns? And one of the major things that came out of that was the idea of single point entry at all of our school sites to make sure that there weren't multiple points in which somebody could get onto campus, because some of our campuses are really exposed in that way, right? That's an easy, simple fix to be able to address in regards to where to utilize some of that money. Is it the only thing? No, absolutely not, right? But it's one way in which to address it. So you're absolutely right, so thank you for bringing that point up. One more, and then we will talk about next steps.
I hear the Bob Nelson thingy. Actually, it's Bob Nelson only in sitting. I want to clarify those one. Where are missing the point? Why Bob Nelson not doing nothing? The point is we have 5 counselors in schools. Those counselors is the boss of Bob Nelson also. So those counselors, the board of trustees who are sitting, telling him what to need to do, or voting what need to address those there. You have voice to vote for this counselors of your schools. So Bob can do his job properly.
So I will definitely give voice to the idea that absolutely we do have 7 trustees, and they also need to make sure that they hear your voice and are held accountable to things that are important to our students. right? But there are a lot of leaders in this school district. And again, if we see that there's an issue, they better see that there's an issue. That is their job. And I get it, nobody's perfect, but again, going back to that, we could see and identify a problem. Why are we not working to fix it? Whether that be superintendent, deputy superintendent, or anybody down the line, who is fixing it? Who is waking up in the morning, as we often ask ourselves, who's waking up in the morning to think of new ways to address literacy in a systemic way? Who's waking up in the morning to address safety? Who's waking up in the morning to figure out how are we going to get new paras? Because if the problem exists, why are we not finding solutions? What we're saying is we want to work with you in order to find those solutions, which is our next step. So we've identified some issues, right? We'll definitely go back with our team and start figuring out, okay, what could be some solution? And we invite you back here in 2 weeks, same place. And we're gonna say, here are some of the solutions we think. We want you to go back and think, talk to your community members, talk to friends, and figure out what are some solutions after what we heard. And we're gonna come back, we're gonna brainstorm, and those are gonna be the things that we're going to be fighting for, right? You could see you should have received a flyer, a yellow flyer, and make sure that's just a flyer just to remind you of the particular date, again, the 26th. So I appreciate that. On behalf of the Fresno Teachers Association, we appreciate you. We'll stick around if there are any individual things, or I'll stick around if there are any individual items. We appreciate everybody joining. I know it was a lively discussion online, particularly around the ideas of smaller class sizes, more additional support in the classroom, additional pairs in the classroom, and a whole lot of other things online. So thank you for that, everybody joining us online. We're going to go ahead and say goodbye to the folks online. We hope that you have a great evening, and we'll see you at another time for sure. Everybody here, thank you for your time as well. I think we're going to probably have some extra pizza, I think, which you could go ahead and feel free to take it home. So thank you so much.